I'm gonna hide my bra strap because medieval women did not wear bras. They didn't have those. They just had their dresses and shifts.
Dresses and shifts!
I got a microphone, and yay, microphone. Kind of feel professional now. All right, so it's been a couple of months since I've uploaded. I work a full-time job, so yeah. Ooh, gotta hide this bra strap. Medieval women didn't have bra straps. What am I thinking? You like my new microphone? It gives me fancy sound. Fancy sound! All right, so I have not uploaded in a couple of months, and that's because, drumroll please, I work full-time. Also, this project has taken up a lot of my time. It's something I wanted to make sure I got done right, so it's been taking a while. Plus, some other projects I had ideas for and had lined up weren't quite working out, and I didn't feel like the video content that I was making was good enough to upload. So I alluded to what I was going to make a couple videos ago, and I mentioned that it was something green. And this video will figure out what it is. You'll find out what it is. You won't have to, it won't be a puzzle. It won't be a puzzle, don't worry. I got this idea back in July of 2020.
That was a fun year.
I've been working on this for about a year now. It took me months of just planning, finding resources, finding information about this gown. I just started actually putting needle to fabric about like 4 months ago. This has been one of my dream projects. I can't describe how elated I am. So, the gown in question. Why, Mary of Hungary's gown, of course. You don't know who Mary of Hungary was? This gown was made in the early 16th century, around the 1520s. It was made for the Queen of Hungary and Bohemia, Mary of Hungary. I wonder if she was hungry. I hope she had a lot of chefs. I kind of want to know what Mary of Hungary's favorite food was. And this was a time where it had been the end of the medieval era, and it was just the teensy-weensy, itsy-bitsy beginnings of the Renaissance. Some experts argue over when exactly the medieval era ended and the Renaissance era began, but for the sake of this video, since most people will look at this and be like, that's a medieval dress, right? Then that's what I'm gonna call it.
Hate me.
I do not consider myself an expert by any means. I just like to consider myself a history enthusiast. Most of the stuff I know I learned off of YouTube, just like I'm sure many of you did. So my goal is to replicate this extant garment as best as I can. Yes, this dress is still existing, if you could not tell by the photo of it that I had, because how else would we have been able to get a photo of it if it was in existence. I discovered this gown's measurements and construction info online, and my little historian heart fluttered. No.
Exploded.
Because that's awesome. I love this dress. I want to eat this dress. Yeah. Have you ever wanted to eat a dress? So let's get this wimple party started, baby. By the way, this getup, this whole getup right here is not from the era that this dress that this video is about is from. This is like a couple centuries earlier, the 14th century. So I just wanted to wear it because it's fun, okay? Let's just get our medieval vibes on today. So this is the diagram that I used for a reference to make the gown. So I'm going to try to explain this as quick and easy as possible. I'm not good at explaining things, so bear with me. The shift that goes underneath the gown originally wasn't a part of the gown, but the museum people were like, yeah, okay, it's a part of the gown. We're going to make it. It's around the same time period, so we put them together. Anyway, the shift is made out of linen, so I got linen. I used a ton of fabric. At first I got 6 yards. Not enough, right? So I went back to Joann's, and I got around like 8 or 9 yards. Tons of fabric here. The shift is made out of 3 trapezoidal pieces on the front and the back, so 6 total sewn together to make one big rectangle. You're gonna gather those babies right at the top. I gathered them just under half an inch, no, a quarter of an inch. They were very tiny. It took forever to gather them all. By the way, I used a pretty lightweight linen for this. So after 100 years of gathering, I sewed the 3 trapezoid pieces together. The gathering section was about like 3 inches deep, like from the neckline. After that, I took a break from torturing my fingers to chauffeur a lizard who had been vacationing in our curtains. I'm not procrastinating, you're procrastinating. I went back to finish the other side of the shift, and can you see how many dots I made? This took hours. I can't get these hours of my life back. Good thing they were well spent, right? I jumped ahead a little bit here because I'm impatient, and I made the cuffs for the sleeves. I messed up because the original garment's cuffs were about like half an inch, and mine were too wide. I think they ended up being about an inch wide, but I don't think anyone will notice. They're hidden. After that, then I did the sleeves, and it was looking pretty good. The shift is pretty simple. Everything's a rectangle, except for the trapezoids, which kind of turn into a rectangle. It's nothing fancy. Nothing fancy at all. Check out my neat balloon. Yeah, I can do squats. Every medieval lady needs a unicorn. By the way, by the time I got to the sleeves, I got tired of gathering, so I just did it by the sewing machine. I guess the historical accuracy got shot to heckaroonie. I don't know what a heckaroonie is, but you can figure that one out. The gathering on the sleeves aren't as nice, but my fingers are thanking me. Next, I put in the gores for the underarms. They're pretty darn large. They're so your arms can move better. Yeah, there's nothing much to them. They're just squares. Can I just say that tying the gathering strings together at the end was just about as difficult as actually doing the gathering? I mean, oh my goodness. Just stay in place. Stay in place. Hehe. Naughty. Now, was all the gathering worth the pain? I don't know. I don't know. Someone better call a popo on this guy because he's looking a bit shifty. Once everything was sewn together, I went back through and feld stitched down all the seams. By the way, a feld stitch was a pretty common way of securing the seams back in the day. You just turn over the fabric, turn it over again, and stitch it down in tiny stitches, so hopefully it doesn't show through on the other side. The original shift has a silver thread embroidery at the top, which means my fingers are going to fall off. So first I sewed the binding around the neckline to make sure that neckline is nice and secure, and then I went in and did all the hand embroidery. Whew. But not before another break for some adorable baby ducky time, because who doesn't want adorable baby ducky time?
Aw, little guy. He's got a whole bunch of special inside him. He's just gotta let it shine.
And then I got really distracted by this really cool project, which I was really excited for, and it was inspired by the early 60s, early 70s, and there's all sorts of groovy psychedelic things, and I hand drew everything with Sharpies, and it was really cool, and it took me a couple weeks, so it really just distracted me from the gown project for another weeks, and it ended up not turning out. But looking at this now, it looked pretty cool. I'm not gonna lie, it looked pretty cool. Too bad you guys are never gonna see it. And then I got distracted by this other project that, okay, let's not even go there. Let's just stop this now. Once I was done being distracted by other projects, I moved on to the outer gown. I went to my local fabric store, picked up these for 50% off. They're silk diapone, and I feel like I matched the colors pretty well. I ended up not using this one, but man, look at that glisten. This green I was ecstatic with. This is not silk brocade. The original was silk brocade, so this is not historically accurate as I would have liked, but I think it will do. And this is future me, so hint, hint, it did do. It did do very, very well. Lesson here is if you can't afford the right fabrics, just go with whatever fabrics you can, because the fashion history police are not real. So I used the diagram from earlier to make a mock-up out of some cotton material. And I'll link the website down below that I got some exact measurements from, and to my surprise, those measurements match mine pretty well, the measurements from the original garment. I didn't have to change much, so I'm guessing that little Miss Mary of Hungary was about my size. Although I did have to widen the armhole a little bit. I guess her armpits were a bit bigger than mine. Once the mock-up was all good to go, I cut out the pieces from the silk. And that was anxiety-inducing, but ended up working perfectly. I had just enough fabric. By the way, for the lining, I used a dark green flannel. The original was made out of wool, but that is expensive and it's not in my budget, so I used flannel. I figured it would do the trick. They didn't have flannel back then. It's not historically accurate. Please don't get on me for it. Again, just use what you can for your budget. Fun shouldn't have a price. And for some reason, I lost footage of me sewing this together, but here's a video of a sleeve. And here is the video of the front portion of the gown. I feld stitched it together. There's the lining. As you can see, it's dark green, and oh boy, that neckline was risky. And for the skirt portion of the dress, it was just pretty much half a circle on the selvage. And geez, I can't even tell you how many yards I used. It was a ton, and it still wasn't enough. As you can see, the skirt is 3 parts sewn together. Piecing was very common in this era. Luckily for me, because I needed to throw in another piece in there because I did not have enough fabric. Despite doing the math over and over and over again in my head, it just wasn't enough. So once I got all the piecing sewed together and the lining in there, I sewed the top to the skirt.
Torso ho!
First, I sewed the skirt on backwards, so that was fun. It was way too long in the front and I would have tripped over myself, and no princess should be tripping over herself. And that's why I'm not a princess, because I trip over myself all the time. And then I took another break to go to the zoo with a friend to see that they just let their animals run around free. Just kidding, that was a joke. That's a wild deer. That's not a zoo deer. You're silly. And then after the deer, the dress was magically done. Did I say I lost footage? Because I did. Okay, insert rant about why I love historical sewing. I believe we live many lives. I don't know if any of you do, but whether you believe in past lives or not, there is an undeniable connection with those that came before us. I like to imagine if people of the past imagined the future as we do today, as in, maybe there was a man in the 13th century sitting on a hill by a tree after working a long day in the field, and he wondered what the lives of his great-great-grandchildren would look like. I believe that the human imagination is powerful. I believe it has played such an irreplaceable part in how we've shaped our world. Imagination created the original dress, as well as the one I'm making now. I wonder if Mary of Habsburg's tailor imagined that his work would be admired hundreds of years into the future. I feel such a great connection to the people of the past when I make and wear historical clothing. I learn how stays feel on my body, how certain silhouettes move on me, and I feel like maybe this is exactly how someone felt in the past while wearing their clothing. I feel historical clothing and my imagination connect me to the bigger picture of humanity. When it comes down to it, Earth has existed long before us and will probably exist a long time after us. Our story has been so short compared to the great expanse of the universe, but I feel it is something to celebrate. We can learn from the past and use their ingenuity, creativity, hope, and imagination to constantly strive for what we want to see in the world. So, if you have an idea or inspiration, why not take action on it however you can today? If you wonder what the future holds and have a vision for it, why not do your best to bring it to fruition? Future generations could feel and possibly even see the effects of your work. You could make the small existence of humanity more beautiful and precious with your contribution of only $19.99 a month.
Shipping and handling does not apply.
Okay. I hope you liked the video.
Subscribe!